We have Teddy Covers joining us in a second here. We're going to start with NBA, see what he's on. I've not added anything in NBA. I did add one play in NHL, and I was happy to talk out NHL. And I'm comfortable not taking the Bruins or the Predators here on tonight's card. I don't feel like that's something I have to do. Avi Gold says, did we cover the Wizards game? Yeah, we opened with the Wizards game, and there was not a lot of interest in it, man. Seems like things heated up late. Seems like things heated up late. I'm not making a move on this Wizards-Pistons game, but if I did, I would take the Wizards at home here to get their first win after the Pistons looked so good with all those injuries in Brooklyn. Just feels like a letdown spot. Now, I'm not going to take the Wizards at home, but if I was given a free play, I'd probably do that. Vincent Hawkins says Lillard is back home, Jimmy. I can't wait to hear what Teddy has to say about that game, because to me, I just don't see a guy like Lillard making $40 million a year back home, looking across the court at these G Leaguers and think, let's bury these Warriors by 25. I have a difficult time seeing that angle right now. So I'm on one play in the NHL, and it's a play I want to make more and more. And that's the Senators' first period as a big money line dog. They're not huge because they're playing against the Rangers. Rangers feeling good about themselves, getting plus 138. And this is a play I'm going to make more and more throughout the year. And we'll break that down, that just the first period Senators play, because at this point, they're the only team I want to back first period. We'll break that down individually in our stats. And then I'm on two plays in NBA from this morning, backing the Nets, -4. I should have got the 3.5. I should have made the bet before making the coffee. It was a mistake. And then I am also on the Bucks first half -3, and I can understand the Bucks not being as focused in this spot as they were against the Raptors. I just see the Timberwolves falling off after that spectacular. Both the Timberwolves and the Pistons playing so spectacularly well without their stars. I don't see that happening a second night in a row, or second game in a row, I should say. All right, let's bring in our guy, Teddy Covers, starting this week off. Teddy Covers, my man, coming to us live from Las Vegas. How are you doing on this Monday morning?
So this is a Monday morning. I could say I'm doing good, Jimmy. I like to say that on a Monday. How about yourself?
I got just destroyed at the Breeders' Cup, and
oh, I'm sorry. What?
I
thought the guys in Vegas did good. I thought they hit a big score.
Oh, they did. I was not with Doc on Vino Rosso. I was on McKinsey, and McKinsey had a good race, and I stayed off. I thought I capped it soundly. We know in the Classic you need to be within 6 lengths of the lead, and I worried about Code of Honor being there, and I just didn't. So those top 5 horses, I thought, Vino Rosso made that run that was spectacular, but I thought I was in good shape. And who knows if Tyler Gaffalione hadn't have blocked off that inside edge. I still think Vino Rosso would have caught McKinsey, but if he hadn't have knocked off that edge, maybe it's a different situation. Yes, Big Ragu hit $400 on the nose on Vino Rosso at 9-2, and that's why I'm wearing the hat that Ragu gave me. Maybe I can get a little bit of his energy and his glory. I did go 6-3 in NCAA football over the weekend, 1-0 in CFL, but then got beat up in NFL and beat up at the Breeders. And the reason why the Breeders bothers me so much is because I look forward to that all year. I studied all year and prepared for it all year. And I know the studying's a little lackluster because I've got all these shows and I'm not just focusing not going to the track every day. But it was something I look forward to so much. So losing $500 really bothered me. Glad to hear you had a great weekend, though. And I know that will continue. I think you are going to get hot. So let's get right to work. Corey Simmons putting in his place. Going to copy and paste this very quickly. Let's start with NBA, and then I'd like to ask you about the Monday Nighter, and then we'll go into NCAA football. I've made 2 moves in NBA on the Nets and the Bucks first half, and we're still looking good. We're 10-6 on the season. Are you making a move on this NBA card?
So there's 2 games that I like, and one of them is the Brooklyn game that you were just talking about, Brooklyn, New Orleans. I like that game over the total. That's been bet up already this morning. I think I put a 237.5 in my pocket. It's not far off. I mean, you get 238s right now. And Pelicans, every Pelicans game's going. I have no hesitation right now riding New Orleans over. Gentry's never been a defense-first guy. The Nets aren't playing defense like we want to. This game's going to be played at a fast pace. I played over in that one. And I played the game that you were talking about when I first came on that you said I got no action on. But you leaned to the Wizards, and I too leaned to the Wizards. I leaned to the Wizards enough to make a bet. And my thought process is very comparable to yours. When you're talking about, hey, the Pistons played out of their minds. They were missing 4 key guys, and they went on a huge second half run and beat Chicago the other night. I wasn't anticipating 2 games like that in a row. It's a Wizard spot. I laid 2.5 this morning. The market's already at 3 for that ball game. Doesn't look necessarily like Derrick Rose is going to be able to go for the Pistons. Detroit's a banged up team, and Washington has this game circled. So, back to back dismal defensive efforts against the Rockets and the T-Wolves for Washington. And the quotes were that they were interested in defense tonight. So I laid 2.5 with the Wizards line, 3 now as we speak. That's all I play in the NBA. The only other thing I was really kind of thinking about, the Blazers, but the line didn't come out. I have Golden State right now, power ranked as the worst team in the NBA. I have them lower, a point lower than the Knicks, a point lower than the Grizzlies. I've got the Warriors dead last out of 30 NBA teams. And my number was only 9. I can't lay 10.5 in the spot. I can't do it.
And psychologically, which side are you closer to? These guys like Dame making $40 million per season are going to look across at these G Leaguers and not see Durant and Steph and Draymond, not think, let's destroy this team that knocked us out of the conference finals. What side? Did you see them looking across it? I posed that question wrong. Do you see 2 things? Do you see them looking across the G Leaguers and not wanting to destroy them? Or do you see them looking across thinking, this is a team that knocked us out of the conference final, let's destroy them?
I would go with the former rather than the latter. It's not the same team, and everyone knows. It's the same building and the same coach. It's not the same team. Do the Warriors have anyone on that team that scored a point in the series against Portland? I was under the impression they didn't have a single player who scored a point in that series on the roster right now, which tells you that, which worries me from a motivational standpoint, even though they're excited to go beat Golden State. It's not any of the players that are going to get them juice. So I lean to the former for that argument. That being said, I don't know if it makes a difference. Golden State is that bad right now on both sides of the ball. They're the worst team in the NBA. And the way I like to make money betting against the worst team in the NBA is I like to bet against them at home, but not laying doubles. The price just wasn't right.
It's good. I might make a move with you on that Wizards spot. The only question I have is, from a big standpoint for the Wizards, you have Bryant, Bertans, and Hachimura. And I know that Drummond's still going to go for 20 and 20, but can Hachimura, Bertans, and Bryant give the Wizards enough? Because they're going to completely outplay them from the guard spot. Is that enough? Let me just say that. So is our thinking with the Wizards that Bradley Beal, Ish Smith, Isaiah Thomas, if you dominate from a distribution situation and kind of push Luke Kennard around, that's enough to beat the Pistons at home?
So this is my thought process on the game. And you spent a lot more with the individual matchup. I'm not an individual matchup guy in the NBA, and I haven't found a lot of success, with the individual matchups in the NBA. What I like to do in the NBA is focus on spots, and I focus on teams that are mispriced in the markets right now. I look at Detroit as being in a very flat spot and the Wizards in a plus spot right here. And Washington showed me enough on that very first road trip of the season. They won at OKC. They hung tough for somebody else. There was a couple of games there where I'm like, this team is not, they're bad, but they're not hopeless. They're not the Warriors or the Knicks or the Grizzlies, So I thought there was enough bet on. And then reading the quotes this morning, Hachimura was talking about taking the defensive, there were multiple player quotes. Beal, another guy who was talking about, hey, this is a game for our defense. We haven't played defense the last 2 games. We're not going to win that game. So when I have the team taking that defense first approach, the quotes that I'm seeing are of that mentality. And we have an opponent who I think is, has, I don't trust Detroit to do it 2 games in a row. And again, they were on their way to getting whipped, and they all of a sudden got really hot in the third quarter and expanding into the fourth, and went on a big run and got a win and cover. But that's not what I trust Detroit to do on a game in, game out basis. So when you talk about, the Pistons bigs versus the Wizards bigs and the Wizards backcourt versus the Pistons backcourt, That's a hard way to handicap NBA, in my opinion. It really is. Have you had success with that, Jimmy? And if you had, I certainly won't talk you out of it. But when it's the matchups themselves on any given night, you'll see a fair bit of randomness in that regard. From a fantasy standpoint, that's what you look for. But from a betting standpoint, not as much. At least in the way I handicap.
Yeah, I beat NBA every year, but not enough to raise a family. I mean, I beat it by 9.82 units 2 years ago, and last year I beat it by 16 units, or I think maybe it might have been 16 or 18. But yeah, I do. I break down the games in the morning, and then I have generally on big schedules I get an expert, like a Jay Money, Junior Brown, Ski Profit to come on to the late show. And last year we had King Rail, who was great as well, And yeah, I go over matchups. I love the matchup spot, and that's enough. That's enough right now to keep me off of it and I'm going to stay off it because one player who is going to step up again is Bruce Brown. He wants it so badly. He wants to show everybody so badly that he can fit here, and so if he steps up, and then the bigs for the Washington, because I trust Bryant a little, but if the bigs I don't trust Hachimura and. Bertans is what's he going to do? He's just going to lollygag around the perimeter. With that, I think that Drummond can eat, and Bruce Brown, he wants it so badly, and he's so he has the potential to want it bad enough that he could will this. He could change the dynamic of this advantage that the Wizards have in the backcourt. So if Brown and Kennard's another guy who wants to prove he deserves top 5 minutes. That's the only thing that's kind of keeping me off at this point, and I'm going to stay off. But I might jump on the Wizards with you at some point. And I like your look. I totally get your look. Luis Fernando Esquina says Hachimura sucks, bro. we love him up in the Pacific Northwest, but I get it. No, God, please don't. You guys, when somebody's not on the show, please don't say R.I.P. Come on. These guys are people that we care about enormously, and don't let anybody have the wrong impression that something. King is healthy and happy and doing incredible capping as we speak right now. So please, let's not talk like that. Okay, Teddy, let's go into the Monday Nighter. I got kicked in the teeth. The Colts losing hurt so bad. Pushing the 6 with the Buccaneers hurt so bad. Oh, God, a couple spots.
That's the worst two of the day right there. You had them both.
Yeah, it hurt. And now we go to the Monday Nighter, and I've made no moves. And we're going to be doing live line tonight, and I don't want to have a defeatist approach to this Monday Nighter. So I would like to lean on you to get me out of this feeling that I have. Let's go to it right now. Let's see what we're seeing. We opened at 7, right? Now we have 6.5. Open at 7. Now we have 6.5 on the board. Pinnacle did open up at 7.5, but that was a plus 112. So there are 6.5 at Bookmaker, Bet365, UWager, Intertops, Heritage. And then from a total perspective, it opened at 48. Now we have 48.5. Teddy Covers, can you start breaking down this Dallas-New York game? Because I just don't have the right approach right now.
Well, I don't have a great feel for the game, to be honest. I mean, I have the slightest of lean to the Cowboys and a slightest of lean to the over. I'm not really pulling the trigger on either, certainly not at current numbers. A little interest in Dallas at 6.5. I cashed a ticket with the Giants through the back door last week at Detroit. They weren't a right side. They got there, but they weren't a right side. And I mean, defensively, the Giants have a lot of trouble. There are issues for the G-men on the defense side of the football, issues that aren't going away and aren't likely to go away. All 3 units. The pass rush is mediocre at best. The linebacking core is dicey. The secondary hasn't been good. And that's a bad 3-pack to go and try to stop the Cowboys against. It really is. If I had to make one bet tonight, it would probably be Cowboys team total over. 27.5. Is a number I saw, and that one makes a ton of sense to me. I think Dallas is going to get theirs against the Giants defense that is spotty on a good day and bad on a bad day. But when we look at Garrett as the home favorite, they haven't been good. The Giants, this is the role that the Giants have been great in, not just this year, but for Sure, they've been good under this role under Shermer. They were good under this role before Shermer. Giants as road dogs. You don't lay points in these NFC divisional games. It hasn't been a money-winning strategy. Dallas, I worry about their red zone execution. I really do, even against that Giants defense. And it's not a game where I'm that close. Sometimes you're like, all right, well, I kind of lean this way. Cowboys lean, team total over. And the books had a very good day yesterday, for what it's worth. Tonight's not a night to go contrarian. If you're looking for a contrarian approach, all right, well, I want to bet against the public, or I want to bet against the wise guys, or whatever it is. I don't know that tonight's that game. Tonight may be a little a give back, because the books, from every report that I've read, the books did very, very well this past weekend.
And if I'm going to be studying this afternoon from a props market angle, you're expecting the Cowboys to put up points on the Giants. Do you expect that to come through the air, from the ground? How do you see the Cowboys beating up the Giants? And also, the Giants have been atrocious in first quarters. They've been outscored 38-0 over the last 4 games in the first 15 minutes. Do you think that trend continues? Also, do you feel like Michael Bennett being picked up will do anything to spark the Cowboys defense?
That was a bunch of questions. The Bennett pickup, I wouldn't expect that to have a major impact off the bat. It could. But in terms of, am I expecting Michael Bennett to have an impact tonight? No. You asked about the Giants. What was it about the Giants?
Well, just from a props perspective. Oh, no, okay. With the Giants, I asked about first quarters. They've been just atrocious, and I see people coming in liking the Cowboys' first half. Is that, just a small sample size, sort of a fluke situation, or do you think there's some real issues going on with Danny Dimes' game plan early?
I haven't focused on it enough to really say, all right, the Giants are coming out flat. The Giants can't get it done in the first quarter. I'm not getting that sense. That doesn't mean that you don't want to bet against them, but I'm not getting a sense that it's something systemic. That's something that has to happen, that is likely to, because it's happened in the past, it's likely to happen in the future. I don't really get that sense at all. And then you asked about how it's going to happen tonight, for the Dallas offense against that Giants defense. And frankly, I don't see the Giants stopping Dallas on the ground. I don't see the Giants stopping Dak Prescott through the air. If you're looking at props, maybe you bet some Amari over. I would expect the Cowboys to go to their stars, and I think they'll have success in the passing game against Giants secondary that's dicey on a good day. Lit up by Matt Stafford last week. I think they get lit up by Prescott this week. So maybe I would say that we'll see. We tend to think of Dallas as Zeke first and then Dak. Tonight might be a Dak first and then Zeke type of game for Dallas. I do think they're going to chuck the football around.
Yeah, and that's how I would defend the Cowboys. I would say, let's see if Dak and Jason Garrett can call up the right passing plays to beat us, because I'm not going to let Zeke do it. So that makes perfect sense, because I don't trust Dak. But if you have 8 in the box against him, he's going to be able to find – you expect him to be able to find an open receiver. Okay, there we have it. Giants, Cowboys. I still have not made moves, but I will be studying it this afternoon. And we will be live tonight, live line Monday night. And I will be sitting beside Flash at his apartment. And, man, I just after this weekend, I fear that I'm going to – maybe I should lay off the sauce tonight so I don't – go down a dark hole. Okay, let's move on to NCAA football. I had a nice enough weekend. It started with Navy first half, which was lucky. I did not probably deserve to cash the Navy first half. But Liberty UMass over 69, that pretty much cashed in the first half. Troy was a tough loss. Louisiana Lafayette cashed nicely. Houston plus 22. It looked like I was going to lose it for a second. San Jose plus 17. Beautiful. Kansas was a mistake. USC was a mistake. But I covered the USC mistake with USC Oregon over 62. So 6-3. Rafa, can you pop up the record? Moving in the right direction. I've got a lot of work to do to get the plus units, but moving in the right direction. How did things bang out for you, Teddy?
So the plays we gave it on the show last week went 5-3. I had a winning weekend. I had a pretty good weekend, but a real good a good day on Saturday. The SBR contest was good for me this weekend. I finally got the 6-0 that I desperately needed to get back to respectability in that contest. I knew I needed one, and I was able to put one together this past weekend. So, I won on Saturday and I won on Sunday. So it was a pretty good weekend for me. But again, Jimmy, I mean, I know I came in smiling today, and last Monday I came in grumpy, But the bottom line is, win or lose, we come the same way, the same effort, the same attitude, the same energy. Sometimes, I had a shitty October. I was not happy with anything I did that whole month. Very glad to see the calendar turn. And when I changed stuff up last Monday, I'm like, it's not to change things up, just to change things up. I've been in this little funk. Let's take a day, a mental health day, and do something different, and then come back and look at it the way we normally do on Monday. That ended up working out very well for me last week. So pretty good weekend overall. I made some moves last night and this morning in college football. Whenever you want to go there, because I know that you like to hear the Monday morning moves.
I do want to hear the Monday morning moves, and I expected you to catch fire at some point soon. Eddie Euler, thanking you for UCLA. The big spot that I was beating myself up for was not being on Oregon State. It was a great breakdown you had this week.
No, I had a play. I didn't give it to the clients, and I was mad at myself for not giving that game out to the clients. That was so easy.
It was a great breakdown. And that was the only one that really aided me. Although all the guys were on Bowling Green, and that worked again. Okay, I'm copying and pasting the looks here, and we have Tuesday football. We have a ton, but let's start by hearing what Teddy's on early in the week, and you guys start firing the questions. I will copy and paste them. Okay, Teddy, let's hear your Monday moves.
Sure. We've got an action on Thursday night. I laid betting number 111, game number 111, Temple. I laid 1.5 with Temple. That's up to 2.5 now. I do expect that line to get to 3. If you think Temple can beat USF, I bet that sooner rather than later. I made a move on Friday night as well. The Oregon State team we were just talking about. I took them plus 10 against Washington, betting number 116. I wasn't sure if that number was going to hold. I wanted the 10 in my pocket. It's been a really one-sided series. I mean, Washington has dominated that team. But if you watch the Huskies go down this weekend, I'm not convinced they bounce back. That was a bad loss to Utah, and the way they lost that game. And Oregon State stood out to me like a sore thumb, and I'm like, I'm putting that in my pocket right now. So I took the plus 10, not knowing which way the line was going to move. Betting number 137, I laid 2.5 with Wake Forest this morning. I saw 3s last night. I thought it was going to go up. I was debating. I'm like, well, let's just see what happens. And it was 2.5 when I woke up this morning. I'm like, nice. I don't know that Virginia Tech's going to bounce back off of that loss. They gave everything they had against Notre Dame. And again, they weren't. The game turned on a 2-touchdown swing when you return the fumble, 90-something yards for the TD. It changes everything in that contest. Instead of Notre Dame being up 21-7, it's 14-all. And it was a whole different ballgame thereafter. I'm not convinced Virginia Tech going to bring their A game this week. I thought Wake at 2.5 was something that I wanted to make. And this one also I just put in my pocket this morning. And I don't know. I feel like maybe I jumped the gun on it, but 13 was just too much. My number's a lot shorter for Illinois, Michigan State. Betting number 135, put Illinois plus 13 in my pocket. I understand the spot, whatever. Sparty's supposed to do all that. I haven't seen Sparty being good enough to beat anyone by 13, and Illinois' defense is real. So I took the Illini in that game. I'm tempted by Minnesota at the plus 7, but I'm going to wait on that. I think that line may even go higher. And I missed the best number with Iowa. I'm probably going to get there with Iowa anyway. I think there's still 9.5s out there. But I didn't pull the trigger on Iowa. We'll probably talk about that one tomorrow. That's betting number 193. Shit, that's down to 8.5 in most places. Still a couple of 9.5s out there. I might end up waiting until later in the week till I get down there. We may well see some Wisconsin money come at some point here, but the first bets came against Iowa, so I held off on the Minnesota and the Iowas. But I am down on Oregon State, Temple, Wake Forest, and Illinois already for this week. Oregon State plus 10, Temple minus 1.5, Wake minus 2.5, Illinois plus 13. That's great. My Monday morning takes.
Those are
That's
great.
What I got.
I love it. I've got them all down and listed: Temple, Oregon State, Wake Forest, Illinois, and possibly Minnesota and Iowa. I love it. Well, let's start. Some questions are coming in, and I'll start asking you them. But let's start with the game of the week, LSU, Alabama. Alabama opening up at 5.5, now 6.5. This total sitting at 65. Woo! Big one this week, Teddy. You have a lean early?
Oh, I could only take LSU. I mean, I'm not laying with Alabama. I think LSU's every bit as good, if not better, than Alabama. We're in November, okay? I don't think Alabama or Clemson is going to play for the national title this year. Okay, so in the biggest games with those two teams, I'll probably be looking to go the other way. And I think LSU's again, the look ahead over the summer was 16. LSU's better than we thought they were. Alabama's defense has shown some cracks. And even the elite programs don't win the national title or make the playoffs every single year. I think Alabama might lose this game. I can only take LSU plus.
LSU plus, if you were to make a move. Eric Nisbet agreeing with that look. Okay, questions coming in. We're going to start with Sebastian Arnold, Teddy. He says, Jimmy, can you please ask Teddy if he has opinion on Baylor TSU? Baylor was -1 when he last looked. If you are looking right now at that spot, rotation number 161, 162, it is -1.5, but -1s have hit the board at Bookmaker and Bet Online. Teddy covers 11th ranked Baylor at TCU.
That line kind of stands out a little bit, doesn't it? It sort of stands out on a Monday card. That line stood out to me as well, for what it's worth. And that number is telling you don't want Baylor. Again, I shouldn't say the number is telling you don't want Baylor. It's telling you the wise guys don't want Baylor. The wise guys are expecting Baylor to lose. We saw that in the Oklahoma State game where the money came against Baylor in that contest. And when they hit the highway against a team that can play defense, the markets are saying that the loss will come for the Bears. They're not the type of team that's going to go undefeated deep into November. So for what it's worth, and TCU, they've shown a pretty sharp home road, much better. Playing in front of the home faithful than they have on the highway. So I guess my initial lean is TCU plus, but I'm in no rush to get to the window with it. I mean, I would expect that at some point this week we'll see some Baylor money.
That will be an exciting game we will be talking about throughout. The next spot, I am looking for the rotation number. It's a question from Naeem. He says, how do you feel about Purdue at -1.5 versus Northwestern? I will get the rotation number up shortly, but Purdue -1.5 versus Northwestern.
So it's funny that we talk. I mean, again, that's another game that when the lines came out last night, it stood out to me. That one's like, really? Purdue's laying here? I'm not convinced Purdue can be laying. Okay, I'm not. That's not a good football team by any stretch of the imagination. They played better than expected. It doesn't matter. I give Brom credit for coaxing and cobbling together some type of a roster for a team that's been decimated with injuries. And I know this has been a disaster season for Northwestern. It really has. And from an offensive standpoint, that team's as ugly as it gets on a week-in, week-out basis. I still can't lay with Purdue, okay? Can't do it. Be Northwestern or pass, not on the road with Purdue.
Northwestern or pass. Naeem's next question is rotation number 175, 176. He says, can you ask Teddy how he feels about UAB at +6? It actually opened at 7 at Pinnacle, now 6 across the board. Naeem says, UAB is a solid team to me with the better defense. What do you feel about UAB +6?
UAB might have the better defense. They really might. That being said, UAB is not trading points with Southern Miss, and if Southern Miss gets going offensively, UAB is in a world of hurt. The Blazers were a team I came into the season as this is a strong bet against, and then they faced one weak foe after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. I believe the Tennessee game was the first time they were dogs all year. Now they're dogs again here, and I'm not convinced that they, this isn't Tennessee. And after playing Tennessee, there may be a little bit, Southern Miss may be a little bit, UAB, there's not going to be any shell shock for UAB in this game. And from a situational standpoint, I don't mind a team off a bad blowout loss that's now back in conference play, catching points against a foe that they feel like they could beat. All that said, I think Southern Miss is a good notch or two better than UAB, and the real UAB team is more like the one we saw that get shut out last week. So if I'm playing, I'm laying. Not a game I'm likely to get involved with.
Not going to get involved at that spot. And Black Rogue says UAB was a no-show last week. I am fading. Next spot on the card, question to you, Teddy's from our guy Lockin 24/7. Rotation number 127, 128, 15th ranked Notre Dame at Duke. Notre Dame 6-point favorites, but there are some 6.5s on the board. The question is, can you ask Teddy what he thinks about Duke at +6?
So my initial reaction to this game was Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, I thought, was relatively cheaply priced. And I thought about putting some Irish in my pocket. I'm like, let's sit and see what this line does. Because there's some five. I mean, I've seen 5.5s in a line that's 6.5. So I'm like, let's see if it settles. If it starts looking like it's going to 7, we'll lock in at 6.5 and then decide what we're going to do later in the week. I'm not convinced that Duke is built to hang tough with the very best teams in college football. And I know that Notre Dame was on it. I mean, again, the game against Virginia Tech, there's a fair bit of randomness in that with the 2-touchdown swing on one play. But the fact that the Irish, they were flat as a pancake. They were off to a Michigan loss. They didn't play well. They turned the ball over. They made mistakes. They found a way to win. It wasn't pretty, but I wouldn't crash on Notre Dame this week, market-wise. I wouldn't. And again, I mean, what for Duke? I'm not going to compare Notre Dame to Alabama, but the Alabama game stands out where they just weren't non-competitive against the teams with elite athletes, and that Irish defense is still pretty darn good. Lean Notre Dame.
Next question comes in. We have a Notre Dame lean on the last one from our guy Casano Magic. Rotation number 171, 172, Western Kentucky, Arkansas. Arkansas opening up as 2.5-point favorites. Bet Online's moved it to 2. Says, Jimmy, can you ask Teddy about taking Arkansas -2.5 at home versus Western Kentucky?
I don't know why I play it. I mean, this might be a Rutgers Liberty type of situation. You know what I mean? Where the point spread's just out of whack with the actual class difference and the team speed between these two squads. I could only take Arkansas -2.5 here, and I have very little interest in laying with Arkansas. A team that struggled against the likes of Colorado State and SMU and everyone else that they faced in non-conference play over the last 2 years. They're already talking Chad Morris buyout. I think there have to be better bets to make than laying points with Arkansas. But if I was going to get involved in the game, that's the only way I would play it.
Black Rogue, Greg Capper says, don't take Arkansas, take the over. We don't know the total at this point, but do you see a high score?
I got a total for you.
Beautiful.
50.
What do you think of that spot going over the total?
I haven't played a Western Kentucky game over all year. I'm not convinced that offense is going to work against even a bad SEC defense. No
okay.
opinion.
That makes sense here to not. And you've had a great read on Western Kentucky. I've loved it. Okay, let's keep rolling along. The next question comes from Christopher Commentini. Rotation number 131, 132, Mass versus Army. Army opening up as 35-point favorites, now 34.5-point favorites. Christopher Commentini says, can you ask about Army -34.5 versus UMass? How do we not fade UMass the rest of the season?
It's real easy not to fade UMass. Sorry. Of course, I forgot to turn my phone off. My apologies. Army is not the type of team that I have any comfort level laying 5 touchdowns with, all right? That's not the way they're built. They don't run fast pace. They get a lead. They're grinding clock. The explosiveness isn't there for Army on the offensive side of the football. I can't lay that price with Army. They're not built to win games by 5 touchdowns. Go back the last 5 years. How many games have Army won like this? A handful. And maybe they win this one. I mean, we know what UMass is. They're a team that's going to struggle on both sides of the football. And Army may score touchdowns in every possession. It wouldn't shock anyone. But this price range this week for Army, it's not anything I'm interested in. That's not a team again, they're not built to win by 5. The teams I'm laying 5 touchdowns with are teams that do 2 things. Quick strike scores, elite defense. That's when the second stringers and the third stringers come in, they're still going to get stops for me. I don't have either of those with Army, so that's not a price I'm willing to lay.
Next question coming in again from Lockin 24/7 says, I like Boise State minus 11.5 at home versus Wyoming. Can you ask Teddy about it? Rotation number 155, 156. Boise State no longer at 11.5. Now 13 across the board. Actually, there is a 12.5 at Heritage. What do you think of this spot? And do you agree with the market move, Wyoming, Boise State?
So, did you stay up late and watch that Boise-San Jose game? That was a fun game. And if you had San Jose, it was a right side wire to wire. That being said, Boise showed something in that game because San Jose punched them. They punched them hard, and they kept punching, and Boise punched back. And you had a Frost QB going through some struggles on the road, and lo and behold, when all said and done, making good decisions with the football, moving the ball down the field in the fourth quarter against to win a game on the road. I was impressed. Even though Boise didn't play well, I was impressed with Boise in terms of this is a buy sign moving forward for the Broncos. It's not all right, we lost and now what are we going to do and down in the doldrums. I thought there was enough positive things. And Wyoming, again, the quarterback play for the Cowboys is limited at best. Wyoming's going to have a hard time scoring here. So I can understand the market move towards Boise off the opener, and I certainly wouldn't talk out of a play on the Broncos in this one. I'm going to look at a little serious history. That's not a game I did a ton of work on last night. Nothing I pulled the trigger on or anything like that, but I could certainly understand the lean towards Boise initially. I definitely want to look at serious history there because I remember that Wyoming's been hanging tough with them, I think, but I'm not sure. Let me look it up.
We are running out of time, and questions keep rolling in, and we do want to know if Teddy has leans for Tuesday, so we've got to work quickly here, and I might not get to all the questions. Next is from Vincent Hawkins, says, what about Arizona State USC, Teddy? Rotation number 153, 154. Opened at Pinnacle with USC as a 1-point favorite. Now it's a pick 'em at a bunch of books have Arizona State as 1-point favorites. USC, Arizona State, Teddy.
Oh, yeah, Boise beat Wyoming by 20 last year, and they beat them by 10 the year before. Wyoming pulled the upset 3 years ago. When we talk about USC, I was on USC this last week, and that was my worst play of the day. The Trojans had their chances early. They could have been up and gotten the crowd nuts and gotten all the momentum, and instead they spent a lot of time shooting themselves in the foot. And then if you had USC and they scored the touchdown to cut the lead to 4, and then you watch the kick with 20 seconds left, and you're like, even before he ran it back for the touchdown, you're like, oh my God, Helton, what are you doing? As soon as he kicked off, I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? It was supposed to be a squib kick there, and you didn't do it. We've seen USC coaches get fired coming off the plane, coming back from Arizona State in the past. I worry about the Trojans this week. That was a bad loss. It's a loss that tells me that I'm not playing USC the rest of the way.
Understandable. They looked really bad. And at least I got the push sort of.
Well,
lost the juice with the over.
They look good enough to win the game. They just made an inordinate number of mistakes, and the execution in 14 different ways was not right for USC in that game. And that, I'm not a guy that piles on head coaches, but that all goes to Clay Helton. There's nobody else you can point the finger at for as many mistakes as USC made in that game, as the coach. There are a lot of mistakes.
We have one more question, then we'll ask about quickly Tuesday leans. This is from Michelle Rossi saying, can you ask about Georgia Tech, Virginia, rotation number 121, 122, Virginia, 17-point favorites. Is that too many points, Teddy?
So Georgia Tech again, they lose 20-10 to Pitt, and they're 9.5-point dogs, and they fail to cover. Only the 1-point spread all year. They're, in Nebraska territory. Virginia is not an easy team to lay points with. I don't have a strong. I'm babbling here, and I know we're short on time. I don't have a strong take on this game on Monday morning. I really don't. I apologize. But my initial reaction is nothing.
I hear that. No need. I mean, it's Monday, and we have a giant board ahead of us. Beautiful. Okay, now let's quickly. We've got to put a bow on this show and just kind of give us hints. Really, don't need to. We'll break it down fully tomorrow. But tomorrow we have Kent State, Toledo with 7 or 7.5, and Ball State, Western Michigan with pretty much the same spot, 7s or 7.5. There's actually 6.5 with Western Michigan. Is there any spots there that any leans or angles that you're interested in?
My first lean is looking at Western Michigan and the over. I'm a believer in Wasenick. I'm a believer in that Broncos offensive line. I think they're going to score points against Ball State. So my goal over the next 24 hours is to figure out if Ball State's going to be able to score and we take the over, or if Ball State's going to struggle and we take Western Michigan. But I expect to be involved with one or the other tomorrow. But right now, I'm not sure which. I do think the Broncos get theirs against that Cardinal defense.
Broncos going to eat tomorrow night. We will break those games down fully and totally tomorrow night. We have action, NCAA football action all week long starting tomorrow. Teddy, great job. I'm excited. 6-0 week in the pick six for Teddy. We knew he was going to catch fire. I said that in the video. I was like, watch Teddy catch fire, and 6-0 in the week. Great job. And 5-3 on the picks that he gave out here on the show. If you're looking at what he's on early, Temple -1.5, Oregon State +10. And I didn't get what was the line you got Wake Forest at?
Wake's 2.5. You can get 2.5s right now with Wake.
-2.5. And Illinois was +9.5?
You can no longer get 2.5. No, you can still. There's still a couple of 2.5s out there with Wake. Not many. They won't be there. They won't be there in an hour, in my opinion. Temple, I laid 1.5 with. Illinois, I took 13 with.
+13. Okay, there we go. And he might be going to the window with Minnesota and Iowa. We will find out when we have him next week. Teddy Covers, what a treat. Catch fire for us, man, because I need it. I need it badly, and it's a treat to work with you each and every day. The highs and lows of capping, they exist, and it's how we deal with them, because we need the light in our life. It can't be filled with darkness, and I was so happy to see all the low baggers together at the Orleans this weekend. That put a big smile on my face through the difficulty of my capping this weekend. Teddy Covers, my friend, follow this man, Teddy_Covers on Twitter. Do follow him if you're not following him. If you're not on Twitter, get on it, because it's where we do a lot of our work, a ton of our work. Teddy Covers, thank you so much for joining us. May this be the Monday that begins a great week for you.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. That's very kind of you. And I mean, I'm so bummed I didn't get to hang out with the low baggers down at the Orleans. Where were they at? I know you said they were at the Orleans. Next time, guys, buzz me ahead of time, and I promise I'll make it. I'll go out of my way to get down there. As long as it's not the some crazy weekend in November when everyone's going nuts. But thank you. Appreciate your time, Jimmy. Always appreciate the forum here, and good luck tonight, guys. We'll talk again tomorrow.
There he is, Teddy Covers. He will be back live on the show tomorrow morning.